Park stood in the control room and watched the screens with growing fear. Numbers scrolled past his eyes, each one worse than the last. The asteroid had hit the moon 3 hours ago, and now the moon was breaking apart. "How bad is it?" asked the young scientist standing beside him. Her hands shook as she held her tablet. Did not want to answer. He looked at the data one more time, hoping he had made a mistake, but the numbers did not lie. "The moon is splitting into 7 large pieces," he said quietly, "and thousands of smaller ones." His face went pale. "What does that mean for Earth?" "It means the tides will go crazy. It means debris will fall from the sky for years. It means—" Stopped. He could not say the rest out loud. But understood. She had run the same calculations he had. "Most people will die," she whispered. Outside the Seoul Space Coordination Center, people were starting to panic. They could see the moon with their own eyes now. Instead of one bright circle in the sky, there were several glowing pieces, slowly drifting apart. Children pointed and asked their parents what was happening. Parents had no good answers to give. His phone rang. It was Captain Nam calling from the humanity's only ship that could travel faster than light. "I just saw the news," said. "Tell me there's something we can do." "We're trying," replied, "but our technology isn't advanced enough. We need help." "What kind of help?" "The kind that comes from the stars." Across the ocean was already working on that problem. As Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, she had sent urgent messages to every alien species humanity had met in the past year. The responses were not encouraging. Most species said the same thing. Natural disasters were part of growing up as a civilization. If humanity could not solve this problem alone, perhaps they were not ready to join the galactic community. It was the non-interference protocol, they explained. Younger species must prove themselves. "But we will all die," shouted during the emergency council meeting. Her image appeared as a hologram among 47 different alien species, each one stranger than the last. A being made of flowing metal spoke in a voice like grinding gears. "Many species have faced extinction events. Those who survive become stronger. And those who don't," demanded. "Are remembered," said another voice, this one sounding like wind through caves. Felt her heart sink. She had spent months building relationships with these aliens, learning their customs, earning their respect. And now they were going to let Earth die because of some rule about non-interference. She was about to end the call when 3 voices spoke at once. "We will help," said the first voice, which sounded like singing crystals. "We will come," said the second, clicking and buzzing like insects. "Life must be preserved," said the third, a gentle sound like water flowing. The council chamber fell silent, held her breath. The crystalline voice spoke again. We have ships nearby. We will arrive in 2 days." Buzzed the insect voice. "Our construction fleet will reach Earth in 3 days." Flowed the water voice. "Our biological teams are already preparing to launch." The metal being who had spoken earlier made a sound of disapproval. "You break the protocol. The council will remember this." "Let them remember," said "We would rather be remembered for saving life than for watching it die." The transmission ended. Sat in her office, shaking. 3 alien species were coming to save Earth. 3 species she had barely spoken to before were risking their standing in the Council for Humanity. She sent the news to Earth immediately. Within minutes, every screen on the planet showed the same message. "Help is coming." Saw the message flash across his monitors. He called over. "Did you see this?" "I saw it," said, "but what can they do? The moon is already broken. The pieces are already drifting." "I don't know," admitted, "but they must have technology we've never imagined. They travel between stars like we travel between cities." "Do you think it will be enough?" Looked at the screens again. Fragments of moon were beginning to rain down on Earth's upper atmosphere, burning up in bright streaks. Soon, larger pieces would fall. then even larger ones. "It has to be," he said. 2 days felt like 2 years. Scientists around the world worked without sleeping, trying to calculate where the largest debris would fall, trying to evacuate cities, trying to do anything that might save a few more lives. Barely left the coordination center. She ran simulation after simulation, each one showing the same terrible result. On the second day, they arrived. Their ships did not look like ships. They looked like floating crystals the size of mountains, glowing with inner light. They took positions around Earth's orbit and began to do something that human instruments could barely detect. Screens suddenly filled with new data, mathematical formulas she had never seen before, gravitational calculations of incredible complexity. She called out, "They're talking to our computers." Within hours, they had mapped every piece of lunar debris, every fragment from the size of mountains to the size of pebbles. And then they began to gently push them, using gravity itself as a tool, steering the deadly rain away from Earth. On the third day, they arrived. Their ships were enormous and practical, covered in arms and tools and equipment. They deployed millions of small machines that flew toward Earth like a swarm. These machines began building in the sky itself, creating massive shields over the largest cities, barriers that would catch falling debris before it could strike the ground. Received a communication request from the. He accepted it, and his screen showed a being that looked like a mantis the size of a car, but with kind, intelligent eyes. "I am," the alien said in surprisingly good English. "We will need your engineers to help coordinate the shield placement. Will you work with us?" "Yes," said immediately. "Tell us what to do." They arrived on the fourth day. Their ships dove straight into Earth's oceans, which were churning with massive waves from the moon's disrupted gravity. Within the water, they looked like dolphins made of light. They spread throughout the seas and began doing something that human marine biologists could not explain. The waves began to calm. The tides began to stabilize, even with the broken moon above. Captain Nam flew down to meet the ships. A telepathic message entered his mind, gentle and warm. "We will heal the waters, but we need your help to reach the deepest places. Will you guide us?" "With everything we have," replied. Around the world, people stopped panicking and started working. If these aliens had come from across the stars to help, then humanity could at least help themselves. Millions of people volunteered for evacuation teams, construction crews, rescue operations. They worked alongside alien machines and alien beings, learning as they went. Found herself working directly with a who called itself Crystalline Thought 457. It taught her mathematics that made her head hurt, but also made perfect sense. She began to understand how they saw the universe, not as separate objects, but as patterns of energy and gravity all dancing together. Worked 20-hour days with the engineers. They taught him building techniques that seemed like magic. He taught them about Earth materials and Earth weather. Together, they created shields stronger than either species could have made alone. Spent weeks in the ocean, shuttling teams from place to place. He watched them sing to the coral reefs, watched them calm the frightened whales, watched them repair damage to the ocean floor that human technology could never have fixed. And slowly, day by day, Earth began to heal. The crisis was not over. It would take 18 months of constant work. But for the first time since the moon shattered, people began to believe they might actually survive. 18 months after the moon broke apart, stood on the roof of the Seoul Space Coordination Center and looked up at the sky. 2 new moons hung there now, both smaller than the original, but stable and peaceful. They had fused the 7 large fragments into 2 solid masses. People were already calling them Hope and Promise. "Beautiful, isn't it?" asked Crystalline Thought 457. The floated beside her, its crystalline body glowing softly in the evening light. "I never thought we would make it," admitted. "When I first ran the calculations, I thought Earth was finished. Mathematics without hope is incomplete," they said. You calculated what would happen if nothing changed. We changed everything. Smiled. She had learned so much from working with the. They had taught her to see problems not as impossible walls, but as puzzles waiting for the right solution. And they had never asked for anything in return. That bothered her. It bothered a lot of humans. Down in the engineering bay, Park was having the same conversation with. The Massive was preparing to leave with the rest of the construction fleet. You have to let us repay you, said. You spent 18 months here. You used your resources, your time, your workers. Some of your people even died helping us. His antenna twitched in what had learned was the version of a shrug. 3 workers were lost in accidents. We mourned them. But they died doing what all value, building things that matter. There is no debt. But, would you have helped us if our world was dying? Asked. Did not hesitate. Yes, of course. Then you understand. Helping is what civilized beings do. No payment required. Out on the ocean, Captain Nam sailed beside a named flowing current in deep. The aquatic alien swam alongside his boat, its bioluminescent body creating patterns in the water. Your oceans are healing well, flowing current said, its thoughts appearing directly in its mind. The coral networks are growing again. The fish populations are stabilizing. Because of you, said. You saved our seas when we couldn't. We helped, but your marine biologists worked with us every day. Your volunteers cleaned the coasts. Your children planted new coral. This was not our victory alone. Still insisted, we owe you our lives. You owe us nothing, flowing current replied gently. We gave freely. That is the only gift that matters. These conversations were happening all over Earth. Humans trying to express gratitude, aliens politely refusing payment. It frustrated people. Humanity was not used to receiving help without strings attached. Decided to address the problem officially. She called a meeting of Earth's leaders and proposed what she called the Debt of Gratitude Accords. The plan was simple. Over the next century, humanity would repay the 3 alien species through shared resources, labor, and knowledge. The proposal passed unanimously. Every nation on Earth agreed. They sent the formal document to the end. All 3 species rejected it. We do not want payment, they explained. We helped because it was the right thing to do. Debt implies obligation, they said. We want friendship, not obligation. The best repayment, they added, is for you to help others when you are able. The rejection made headlines across Earth. People debated what it meant. Some said the aliens were just being polite and humanity should insist on repaying them. Others said humanity should respect the aliens' wishes. But everyone agreed on one thing. They would never forget what these 3 species had done. The day came when the alien fleets prepared to depart. Millions of humans gathered at viewing sites around the world. The 3 species had saved 94% of Earth's population. Without their help, almost everyone watching would be dead. Stood with crystalline thought 457 one last time. Will I ever see you again? She asked. The galaxy is large, but travel is fast, they replied. Perhaps our paths will cross. I hope they do. You have become my friend. And you are mine, said softly. Shooks in the human gesture of farewell they had learned. Safe travels, said, and thank you for everything. Build well, Park replied. Build things that matter. Swam one last time with flowing current and deep. They circled him playfully in the water, then projected a final thought. Your oceans will sing for 1,000 years. Listen to them sometimes and remember us. Every single day, promised. The alien ships began to leave. The crystals faded into points of light and vanished. The construction vessels fired their engines and climbed toward the stars. The ships rose from the oceans in columns of water and light, then accelerated away. Earth was alone again, but it was not the same Earth that had faced extinction 18 months ago. A young engineer named Lee had worked with them throughout the crisis. He had learned their building techniques and combined them with human engineering. The hybrid method he developed was faster and stronger than either species' approach alone. When they saw what he had created, they asked permission to take his designs back to their home worlds. "You're asking me," had said, surprised. "You saved our world and you're asking permission to use my ideas." "They are your ideas," had said. "We respect creation, whoever creates it." Dr. Song had worked in the medical bays, treating injuries from the disaster. She had also treated injured workers, learning their biology as she went. She developed new medical techniques that could work across different species. The medical corps asked her to teach them before they left. These small exchanges happened thousands of times. Humans learned from aliens. Aliens learned from humans. Knowledge flowed both ways, freely given, freely received. Stood before the United Nations 1 week after the aliens departed. She looked tired but determined. "They would not let us repay them," she said. "They refused our resources, our technology, our labor. They asked for nothing." She paused, looking out at the representatives from every nation on Earth. "But they taught us something more valuable than any technology. They taught us that helping someone does not require a reason beyond being able to help. They taught us that kindness needs no repayment. They taught us what it means to be truly civilized." His voice grew stronger. "We cannot repay the. They will not allow it, but we can honor what they taught us. We can become the kind of people who help others the way they helped us." The chamber was silent. "I propose we remember," continued. "Every year on the anniversary of the moon's breaking, we remember. We remember that 3 alien species saved us when they had no reason to. And we remember what they told us. The best repayment is to help others when we are able." The resolution passed without a single vote against it. Around the world, monuments were built. Not monuments to human survival, but monuments to alien compassion. In Seoul, a crystal sculpture honored the. In New York, a massive metal framework celebrated the builders. In Sydney, a flowing fountain remembered the. But the real monument was in the hearts of everyone who had survived. They remembered the aliens who came when no one else would. They remembered the beings who helped without asking for anything in return. They remembered. And 20 years later, when humanity heard that they were in trouble, they knew exactly what they had to do. Park, now director of Earth's Interstellar Development Corps, called an emergency meeting the moment the news arrived. "The home system is dying," he told his team. "Something called a dark matter incursion is consuming their energy sources. They are asking the Galactic Council for help." "What is the Council saying?" asked now Chief of Earth's Division. His face was grim. "They are debating, forming committees, following procedures. It could take months. And the. Have weeks at best." Stood up, her voice was calm but absolutely certain. "Then we go now." "The Council might object," someone warned. "I don't care," said. "They saved us without asking permission. We will save them the same way." Around the table, every head nodded in agreement. Humanity was about to change the galaxy. They just did not know it yet. The news spread across Earth in minutes. The crystalline beings who had helped save humanity 20 years ago were dying. Their home system was being consumed by a dark matter incursion, a growing void that ate light and energy. The needed electromagnetic energy to survive, and the void was taking it all. Now Earth's prime representative did not wait for debates or committees. She made the announcement from her office in Geneva, broadcasting to every device on the planet. 20 years ago they came to our darkest hour," she said, her voice steady and clear. "They asked for nothing, they expected nothing. They simply helped because it was right. Now they need us, and we will answer." Within 48 hours, every nation on Earth had voted. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would save the. The scale of the response shocked even those who proposed it. Nations agreed to divert 40% of their power production to the rescue effort. Factories retooled to build equipment for energy transfer. Scientists worked around the clock to develop technology compatible with energy patterns. Admiral Nam, who had once captained humanity's only warp ship, now commanded a fleet of 17 vessels. He stood on the bridge of his flagship and addressed his crew. "We are going into a region of space where the laws of physics are breaking down," he told them. "We will face dangers we cannot predict. Some of us may not come home." He paused, looking at the faces around him. Young and old, veterans and rookies, all volunteers. "But they did not hesitate when we needed them, so we will not hesitate now. We leave in 6 hours." Across the fleet, crews prepared for departure. Among them was now Chief Science Officer of the mission. She had spent 20 years studying mathematics and energy patterns. If anyone could help them survive the dark matter void, it was her. Also on the mission was Lee, whose hybrid construction techniques had become famous throughout the galaxy. His team had designed portable fusion reactors specifically for energy requirements. Each reactor could power thousands of crystalline beings. The ships launched from Earth's orbital stations. Millions watched from the ground, remembering the alien vessels that had arrived 2 decades earlier to save them. Now it was humanity's turn. The journey to space took 11 days at maximum warp speed. During that time, news of humanity's mission spread through the Galactic Council. The reaction was mixed. "They risk themselves for another species?" asked the metallic being who led one of the largest council factions. "Without being asked, without negotiation." "Humans are strange," replied another species. "They seem to believe that owing a debt means actually repaying it." "Foolish," said a third. "They help them because they chose to. Humanity has no obligation." But some species watched with interest. The Ant, who had also helped save Earth, sent messages of support. Other species began quietly preparing their own aid packages, though none moved as fast as the humans. When the human fleet reached space, the sight that greeted them was terrible. The dark matter incursion appeared as a massive sphere of absolute darkness, growing steadily larger. Where it touched normal space, stars winked out, planets vanished. Energy itself seemed to die. The home world sat at the edge of this void, its massive crystalline structures dimming as their power failed. Opened communications with the collective mind. "We are here," she said simply. "Tell us where you need us." The response came in waves of gratitude and disbelief. They had not expected help to arrive so quickly. The Galactic Council was still forming subcommittees to study the problem. "You came," said a familiar consciousness. It was Crystalline Thought 457, her old friend from the Earth Rescue. "You actually came." "Of course we came," replied. "You taught us what it means to help without being asked. Now let us help you." His team went to work immediately. They deployed the fusion reactors in a network around the population centers. Energy began flowing into the crystalline structures, stabilizing them, giving them strength to begin evacuation. But the work was dangerous. The dark matter void warped space in unpredictable ways. Ships had to navigate carefully, constantly adjusting their position as gravity shifted. Admiral commanded the fleet with calm precision. He rotated ships in and out of the danger zone, making sure no crew stayed too long in the distorted space. He coordinated with ships, helping them load evacuees and guide them to safety. The evacuation took 3 weeks. Every day, more escaped to neighboring systems. Every day, the void grew larger. And every day, the human fleet held their position, maintaining the energy network, buying time. Then disaster struck. A sudden expansion of the void caught 3 human ships too close to the boundary. The soul's promise, the bright future, and the new dawn were engulfed before they could escape. All hands were lost, including this brilliant young who had designed many of the rescue systems. Final transmission was audio only, crackling with interference from the void. Energy transfer is holding, his voice said calmly. They are safe. That is what matters. Tell Director Park. Tell him we did good work today. Then silence. Park received the news in his office on Earth. He sat alone for a long time looking at a photo from his graduation day. So young, so talented, gone. But sacrifice was not in vain. The energy network held. The last of the escaped their dying system. Over 2 trillion crystalline beings survived because humanity had come when no one else would. When the fleet returned to Earth, they came as heroes, but also as mourners. The 3 lost ships represented 214 people who would never come home. A memorial service was held at the Seoul Space Coordination Center. Speakers included an admiral. But the most moving speech came from Crystalline Thought 457, who had traveled to Earth specifically for the ceremony. Your people died saving mine, the said, its voice translated into gentle chimes. We will remember every name, every face, every choice they made to help us. In our long history, no species has ever done what humanity did. You teach us that compassion is not weakness. You teach us that remembering kindness matters more than counting costs. The paused, its crystalline form pulsing with color. The Galactic Council calls you young, calls you inexperienced, but you are wiser than civilizations 1,000,000 years old. You understand what they have forgotten, that we are strongest when we help each other. News of the rescue spread throughout the galaxy. Other species began to hear the full story, how humanity had diverted resources they could barely spare, how they had risked ships and lives, how they had lost people and kept going anyway. And then within weeks, 2 more crises emerged. A plague struck the hive worlds. The builders who had helped construct Earth's atmospheric shields were now dying by the billions. Solar radiation from a supernova threatened to boil the oceans. The aquatic telepaths who had healed Earth's seas now faced the death of their own waters. In both cases, the Galactic Council moved slowly. Committees formed. Studies were commissioned. Debates began about whether intervention violated various protocols. Humanity did not wait for debates. Dr. Song, who had treated workers during the Earth crisis, immediately volunteered to lead a medical mission. I know their biology, she said. I can help. Climate scientist Sora Bay and designed atmospheric cooling systems based on Earth's experience with climate disasters. We have the technology they need, Sora explained. We can adapt it for their oceans. Once again, human ships launched to help alien species in trouble. Once again, volunteers stepped forward knowing they might not return. Once again, humanity showed that gratitude was not just words, but action. And the galaxy began to notice. In council chambers across thousands of light years, species that had existed for millions of years were starting to ask themselves an uncomfortable question. When had they stopped helping each other? When had protocols become more important than lives? A philosopher named Han published an essay called The Human Response. It spread through galactic networks faster than any message in history. In simple language, explained humanity's perspective. We were dying, strangers saved us. We asked why they helped. They said helping needs no reason beyond being able to help. We learned. Now when we see others dying, we help. Not because we must, not because we expect reward, but because we learned what civilization really means. The essay changed conversations across the galaxy. For the first time in thousands of years, species began questioning the old ways, began wondering if humanity, the youngest species in the council, might be teaching them something they had forgotten long ago. The universe was changing, and humanity had lit the spark. Dr. Song stood in the medical bay of a hive ship, surrounded by sick and dying workers. The plague had swept through 3 of their worlds in a matter of weeks. They who built wonders across the galaxy could not build a cure for their own illness. "Tell me about the symptoms," said to the doctor beside her. The alien's antenna drooped with exhaustion. "It attacks our neural clusters," the doctor explained. "Our hive-mind connections fail. Workers forget how to coordinate. They become alone." Understood the horror of that. They lived as connected collectives. Being alone was worse than death for them. She studied the data on her tablet, comparing it to Earth's history of pandemics. "This looks similar to a virus we dealt with 30 years ago," she said slowly. "We developed treatments. Let me see if we can adapt them for your biology." Worked for 72 hours straight. Her team of human doctors and medics tested compound after compound. Finally, they found one that worked. The treatment did not cure the plague entirely, but it stopped the neural damage. They could recover. Within a month, billions of lives were saved. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Sara Bay and were trying to save an ocean planet. The home world was heating up as radiation from a nearby supernova bombarded it with deadly energy. The oceans were starting to boil. "We need to reflect the radiation," explained to the leaders. "Create an atmospheric barrier that blocks the harmful wavelengths but lets normal light through." "We do not have this technology," said Flowing Current and Deep, who remembered helping Earth 2 decades earlier. "We do," Sora replied. "We developed it after Earth's climate disasters. We can teach you." Human engineers worked with atmospheric specialists. Together, they deployed a network of satellites that created a protective shell around the planet. Slowly, the ocean temperatures began to drop. They were safe. Back on Earth, Park was tracking a pattern. He sat in his office with maps of the galaxy displayed on the walls. Red markers showed where human aid missions were currently operating. There were 17 of them. Visited him one evening, finding him still at work well past midnight. "You should sleep," she told him. "Look at this," said instead, pointing to the maps. 6 months ago we had 2 active missions. Now we have 17, and more requests come every day. "People see what we do," said. "Word spreads." "But why are we the only ones doing it?" asked. "The Galactic Council has species that are thousands of years old, species with resources we can barely imagine. Why aren't they helping?" Sat down slowly. "Because they forgot," she said quietly. "Or maybe they never learned. For them, helping others is a transaction, a trade, an exchange of value. They cannot understand helping without expecting something back." "But that is exactly what they and did for us," pointed out. "Exactly," said. "Those 3 species remembered what most of the galaxy forgot, and they taught us. Now we are teaching everyone else." The teaching was not always easy. When human ships arrived to help with disasters, some species were suspicious. What did humanity want? What was the real price? Captain Shin commanded the medical vessel Florence Nightingale, which responded to medical emergencies across 3 sectors. She encountered this suspicion often. "We require your terms." A species called the demanded when offered medical aid during a disease outbreak on their colony world. "No terms," replied. "We help because you need help." "Everything has a price," they insisted. "Not this," said firmly. "Let us help, please." They eventually agreed, though they remained suspicious throughout the operation. But when the disease was cured and the humans prepared to leave, the leader asked one final question. "Why?" she asked. "We have nothing you need. We are not powerful. We cannot repay this debt, so why help us?" Smiled. "Because 20 years ago we were dying and strangers helped us. They told us the best repayment was to help others when we could, so that is what we do." The leader was silent for a long time. Then she said something that would remember forever. "We have been part of the Galactic Council for 800 years. In all that time, no one has helped us without demanding payment. You have shown us something we thought was impossible." Stories like this spread. Human aid workers appeared wherever there was suffering, from industrial accidents to natural disasters to medical crises. They asked for nothing. They left when the work was done, and they always said the same thing: we were helped once, now we help others. The Galactic Council began to notice the pattern. A special session was called to discuss the human phenomenon. Attended as Earth's representative, she sat in the vast council chamber, surrounded by representatives from 47 species, and listened to them debate. They are destabilizing the traditional aid protocols, complained one species. They make us look bad, admitted another. They help enemies of our allies, accused a third. Finally, the chamber fell silent and the council speaker addressed directly. Representative, what does humanity want in exchange for these charitable operations? She looked around the chamber at all these ancient civilizations, all these species that had existed for millions of years before humanity even discovered fire. We want others to be safe, she said simply. That is all. But surely, that is all, repeated. You ask what we want in exchange, but that question misses the point. We do not help because we want something back. We help because we can, because we should, because we were taught by those who saved us that this is what being civilized truly means. She paused, then continued. You debate protocols while people die. You form committees while worlds burn. You calculate costs while civilizations collapse. And you wonder why we do not wait for your approval before we help. The chamber was silent. The saved us without asking your permission, said. The N did the same. They taught us that rules matter less than lives. We learned that lesson well. A representative from the Empire, one of the most powerful military species in the galaxy, spoke up. And if we test this, if we create a false distress call to see if you truly help without expectation of reward, looked at the representative calmly, then we would help whoever was in actual danger, even if it was a trap. 2 months later, that is exactly what happened. They staged a fake distress call in a remote sector. Admiral Nam led a small task force to investigate. He quickly discovered the deception. Scanning showed no actual emergency. But he also discovered that the staging area had accidentally triggered a real disaster. A nearby civilian space station was collapsing from structural failure. Thousands of families were in danger. Did not hesitate. All ships begin evacuation procedures. Get those people out now. His officers were confused. Sir, they tried to trap us. And they failed, said. But those civilians did not try to trap anyone. They are just people who need help, so we help them. The human fleet evacuated every civilian from the failing station. They provided medical care, temporary housing, and safe transport back to space. They did all of this knowing they had been deliberately deceived. When the Emperor learned what had happened, he addressed the Galactic Council publicly for the first time in a century. I tested humanity's compassion, he said. I tried to prove it was a trick, a strategy, a manipulation. I was wrong. They helped our people even after we tried to trap them. I have no words for this. We have conquered 100 worlds, but we have never conquered our own greed. Humanity teaches us shame and hope. The Empire, its opposition to human aid operations. More than that, they asked to join the effort. One by one, other species began to follow. They started small, a medical ship here, a construction team there, but they were learning. They were remembering what the galaxy had forgotten. That helping did not need a reason beyond being able to help. 30 years had passed since the moon broke apart and changed everything. Park stood in the garden of the Seoul Space Coordination Center, now much older but still working. He watched ships come and go from the orbital stations above, more traffic than he had ever imagined when he was young. Beside him stood, who had become Earth's foremost expert on cross-species cooperation. Together, they watched something that would have seemed impossible 3 decades ago, a joint rescue fleet preparing to launch, with ships from 12 different species working together. We did this, said softly. We changed how the galaxy works. The UN did this, corrected gently. We just learned the lesson they taught us, and then taught it to others. What they were watching was the Mutual Aid Compact, a new organization that operated alongside the Galactic Council. Its purpose was simple: respond to disasters and help those in need, no questions asked, no payment expected. 12 species had joined as full members, including humanity, the 3 species who saved Earth and the Empire. But the real change went deeper than new organizations. Across the galaxy, species were adopting ideas that humans had introduced. The now held memorial ceremonies for workers lost in accidents, honoring them the way humans honored their dead. They had developed new computational models they called compassion mathematics, based on principles it helped create. The telepathic networks now included gratitude frequencies, emotional bands dedicated to expressing thanks. Even the once focused only on military strength had changed. They now sent disaster relief teams instead of conquest fleets. Their emperor had said publicly, "We spent 1,000 years proving our power. Humanity taught us in 30 years that true strength is using power to help the weak." Not everyone approved of the changes. Some species clung to the old ways, insisting that the non-interference protocol was necessary, that letting younger species struggle made them stronger. But those voices grew quieter each year. It was hard to argue against results. Billions of lives had been saved by the Mutual Aid Compact. Civilizations that would have collapsed were now thriving, and all because species were working together instead of watching each other struggle alone. Now elderly but still serving as Earth's ambassador, had become one of the most respected figures in the galaxy. She received visitors constantly, species asking her advice on how to help others, how to organize relief efforts, how to teach compassion to civilizations that had forgotten it. One afternoon, she met with a young representative from a species called the. They were newcomers to the Galactic Council, having just achieved warp travel. "We are where you were 30 years ago," the young said. "New to the stars, uncertain of our place. Tell me, representative, how did humanity become so influential so quickly?" Smiled, "We did not seek influence. We sought to repay a debt. The land saved us when we were dying. We could never truly repay them. So instead, we help others the way they helped us. But now you are powerful," the pressed. "Other species listen to you, follow your example, seek your approval." "That was never our goal," said firmly. "And the moment it becomes our goal, we will have lost what makes us different. We help because it is right, not because it gains us power." She leaned forward. "Listen carefully, young one. Power built on compassion is fragile. The moment you help someone expecting something in return, you lose the very thing that made your help valuable. Do you understand?" There was silence for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I think I am beginning to." Meanwhile, was solving a problem that had puzzled the galaxy for centuries. Working with scientists and using the mathematical principles they had taught her decades ago, she developed a way to predict dark matter incursions. The technology could give civilizations years of warning instead of weeks. She called the system the Protocol, named after humanity's first warp ship. When she announced the discovery, she made it freely available to all species, with no patents, no restrictions, no payment required. The Galactic Council offered to pay her billions of credits for the technology. She refused. "Why would I charge for something that saves lives?" she asked, genuinely confused by the offer. "They taught me the mathematics that made this possible. They taught me for free. I teach others the same way." That single decision inspired dozens of other species to begin sharing their technology freely. Within 5 years, the Galactic Technology Commons had grown larger than it had in the previous 1,000 years. Admiral Nam, now retired but still advising the fleet, watched these changes with quiet satisfaction. He had spent his life serving others, first saving Earth's oceans with then leading rescue missions across the galaxy. He had lost friends, lost ships, lost sleep. but he had never lost faith that helping others mattered. One evening, he received a message from Flowing Current and Deep, his old friend. The aquatic being wanted to visit Earth one more time. They met at the ocean, where they had first worked together 30 years ago. Flowing Current swam in the waves while stood on the beach. "Your oceans sing beautifully," Flowing Current said. "We hear them across the stars." "Thanks to you," replied. "You saved them when we could not." "And you saved our world when radiation threatened us," Flowing Current said. "We are even." "We are friends," corrected. "Friends do not keep score." This bioluminescent body pulsed with warm colors. "That is the lesson, is it not? The one you teach the galaxy. That friendship matters more than transactions. That helping someone creates bonds stronger than any trade agreement." "You taught us first," said. "And you taught better," Flowing Current replied. "We saved one world, you changed all worlds." The moment came when the Galactic Council held a ceremony unlike any in its million-year history. Representatives from every member species gathered on a neutral station. At the center of the main hall, a monument was unveiled. The monument was a collaborative work of art, created by artists from 20 different species. At its center was a crystal from the, shaped like Earth's broken moon. Around it flowed water from the. Supporting it all was a framework built by the using techniques developed with humans. Inscribed on the base, in 47 different languages, was a single message. To the end, who assisted Earth in its darkest hour, and to humanity, who taught the galaxy that gratitude is not a debt, compassion is not weakness, and together all worlds can heal. And stood together as gave the dedication speech. She was over 80 now, her hair white, her movements slow, but her voice was still strong. "30 years ago we were dying," she said. 3 species we barely knew came to save us. They asked for nothing, expected nothing. They simply helped because it was right." She paused, looking out at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. "We could not repay them. They would not let us. So instead, we learned from them. We learned that the strongest civilizations are not those with the biggest weapons or the most resources. The strongest civilizations are those who lift others when they fall." Smiled. "You have all seen what happened next. Species that competed for millions of years are now cooperating. Species that hoarded knowledge are now sharing it freely. Species that watched others suffer now rush to help. All because 3 species showed us compassion and we showed you." She gestured to the monument. "This is not a memorial to the past. It is a promise for the future, a promise that we will never forget what we learned, that we will continue to help each other, not because we must, but because we can, because we should, because we are stronger together." The ceremony ended with representatives from every species placing their hand, claw, tentacle, or appendage on the monument, pledging to uphold the principles of mutual aid and compassion. Later that night, and sat together beneath Earth's 2 moons, Hope and Promise, watching them sail peacefully across the sky. "Do you think it will last?" asked. "This change we help create?" Thought carefully before answering. "Civilizations are like people. They can forget lessons. They can become selfish again. They can lose their way." "That is not very hopeful," said. But continued, "They can also remember. They can choose compassion over convenience. They can decide that helping others matters more than helping themselves." He pointed up at the moons. "Every species in the galaxy can see what we built from disaster. They see 2 moons where there was once destruction. They see a civilization that nearly died but learned to help others. They see proof that change is possible." Rested her head on his shoulder. "They saved us. We saved them. They helped the helped us help them. It goes in circles." "That is the point," said softly. "It is not a line from helper to helped. It is a circle. Everyone helps everyone. No debts, no scores, just beings taking care of beings." Above them, ships from 100 worlds crossed the night sky. medical vessels heading to distant emergencies, construction ships traveling to rebuild after disasters, science vessels sharing discoveries freely, all of them working together, all of them helping. The galaxy had changed, not through war, not through conquest, not through trade or treaties or political maneuvering. The galaxy had changed because three alien species helped a dying world, and that dying world remembered and taught the lesson to the stars. In the end, that was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. The simple truth that kindness creates kindness, that compassion grows when shared, and that the strongest bonds are built not on obligation, but on freely given help and freely offered gratitude. The universe was vast, full of wonders and terrors, of beauty and danger, of countless species living countless lives. But now, everywhere beings looked up at the stars, they remembered Earth. They remembered humanity. They remembered that true civilization is measured not by what you can take, but by what you freely give. And all worlds were better for it.